Sometimes we don't like people who are honest, but we have to say it. Those are will add up. Then to expect a government come 36 months, or man for one days, I'm to come for the bicycle on that, they will not fear. Sierra Leone has suffered so long, and we have what they call e-development deficit. It's like you take a lump of sugar, just drop it in a bucket of water. It doesn't change, more or less. So what we are doing, we are laying the fundamentals to move on. And we are very proud of that. We are not telling you lies. All these things we are saying, we are factual. What we have not done, we cannot say it. They are factual. So to change, to increase revenue, does not mean you are changing people's life today.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
Good afternoon to you all. Let me start by making two clear remarks. One is that Sierra Leone has been poor for so long a time and will continue to be poor for some time to come. The last integrated household survey indicates that nearly 3 out of every 5 Sierra Leoneans are poor, 56.8%. And literally means 3 out of every 5 is poor. That is going to continue for some time to come. So the expectation that you're going to solve the problem all overnight does not exist anywhere. The development literature tells us that for you to reduce poverty by 10 percentage points, you have to sustain economic growth of nearly 10%, or at least 7%, sustain, which means year after year, it has to be about 7% for several years to come. And that also depends on the distribution mechanisms in place. So to give an impression that we are only poor now, no, we have always been poor. We've always had thatched houses in this country. We've had terrible roads in this country. We've had pambodies and the likes in this country. Not so? Bobode has always been around. And it's what we are doing as a government is to reduce that poverty. So that's the bread and butter. But every public policy has a bread and butter implications. And I'll tell you why. Maybe people, when they talk about bread and butter, it's like buying the bread and the butter itself. But every public policy either has an income effect or savings effect, which is in a way income itself is great. But that's the general statement, on general note. But in terms of explaining what we've done the last 3 years quickly, let me take the macro. On the macro, let me start with the internal account of government. That is the revenue, expenditure, the fiscal side of government operations. I don't want to bore you with percentages, but let me attempt to say the revenue situation is improving, substantially improving. Before now, daily revenue collections was less than 10 billion. Before 2018, was less than 10 billion. About 7-8 billion was collected on a daily basis. Which for 20 working days or 22 working days, if it collects, let's say 10 billion, you are basically talking about 200 billion for 20 working days in a month. And if you take 20 working days in a month, or say 22 working days, you talk about 220 billion. Average government wage bill alone is about 250 billion to 260 billion. So which means every month, government, just on wages and salaries, government spent about $25 million. So before then, the question was, how were they financing even basic salary? They were financing basic salary payment from bank borrowing. They couldn't raise enough revenue. Therefore, they have to resort to bank borrowing. What has changed? What has changed? Daily revenue collection has more than doubled for several months, but on average, put it at 20 billion a day. From 10 billion, less than 10 billion, to about 20 billion a day. So, which means we are now collecting 440 billion on average per month, 22 working days, which is far more than sufficient to take care of salaries of about 250 to 260. Of course, when you take in consideration payment of salary one-off in a year, it can go up to 300, but on average about 250 to 260. So, which means therefore, our domestic revenue is sufficient for us at this government to take care of our salary. Then every month, given the huge debt that was accumulated in the past, we are paying about $100 million, $100 billion, about $10 million to $11 million on debt service alone. Domestic debt, external debt, it could go up to 130 even, or 40 if you take into account arrears paid to suppliers, domestic suppliers. So which therefore means before then, you are collecting 220 millions and you needed 250 to 60 millions. So you were even borrowing money from the central bank or the commercial bank to pay salaries. The good news is that now we don't borrow money from the central bank to pay salaries. I'm not saying we don't borrow, but we don't borrow money from the central bank to pay salaries. Our domestic revenue collection is sufficient enough to take care of our domestic salaries. It's sufficient enough to take care of our statutory obligations, notably debt service. Debt service, like you go to a bank, you take over, at the end of the month, just cut it down. Nobody talks to you. Central bank just minus, whatever you collect, when the time is due for payment. If the time is due to pay IMF, World Bank, Saudi, they just minus it. They have a standing order to do that. So if we pay 250, you still take 100, 350. So we still have some resources to play with. But as a smart government, through the leadership of President Bill, we are able to mobilize, we've been able to mobilize external grants. We've mobilized total external grants we mobilized between 2018 at 2017. The total external resources mobilized in this country was in the neighborhood of about less than $50 million. I'm pleased to report that in that same 2019, that number went up to $438 million project resources. And as I speak to you, between 2018 to end of 2020 or February 2021, we mobilized over $900 million for different project activities. Why is it that we have been able to mobilize? What is the secret behind that? One is the political leadership and effective management of the economy. If they don't trust you, they don't give you money. And I'm pleased to say that out of the $900 million mobilized in the last 3 years, 2/3 of that, nearly 67%, are grants, which means that free money, they pay nothing. Why do you think people can give you the money, taxpayers' money, if they don't trust you? They give it to you for two reasons. One, you have strong leadership in the country. Two, you're effectively managing your economy. Just that. And you're engaging them. If they don't have that community, they will not give it to you. Remember, in October 2017, the IMF and the World Bank withdrew from this country. We are on record that within 8 months, we are able to restore our relations with the IMF and the World Bank. And by extension, improve relationship with all other partners. Within 8 months, it normally takes a country on average about 2 years to restore relationship when once you broke out the relationship with those guys. I've been in this country for so long. 1987, I think I was in university. We saw when the same APC went out of the IMF program. The only time the IMF program was restored was 1992, when the MPRC came. We were never able to restore confidence again. Other countries that have gone out of IMF program, have not been able to restore it until only after 2 or 3 years. We did it in record time. We came in April 2018 by November, we have got to deal with the IMF. And the implications for that was that other donors will open their doors. That's why we got one of the highest grants from the World Bank last year of $100 million. They don't do it for us because they like us, but they did it because they respect the president. That is that. Now, on the revenue side, overall, as I said, there's a common thing they always talk about revenue GDP ratio, which it doesn't make much sense. But when I put it the daily revenue collection, everybody understands it. But we were able, in 2019, to go up to 14.6%, very close to 15%, which is the minimum threshold countries are always yearning for. But what happened? 2020, everybody knows, the beginning of 2020, quarter one, we had a pandemic, the coronavirus. We were smart as a government for the first time. We didn't wait for the crisis to go on and start doing the recovery plan. What we did almost immediately, side by side with the health sector response, we did a quick action economic recovery program. We projected revenue loss about $100 million, about $1 trillion, $100 million. It was going to be extremely difficult to fill that gap that the corona was going to leave in terms of financing our budget. But luckily, we were able to sell that product out and attracted a substantial amount of resources, unprecedented, to the extent that you don't even feel it, or you didn't feel corona in terms of lateness in payment of salaries. You don't feel it because you still saw infrastructure going on. Dr. Senga said earlier, we even continue to spend on teachers. We still continue, we hire our nurses, we hire our health workers. We even brave giving electricity, removing those townships from darkness after 30, 40 years. Kabbalah, Gambia, how do you call it, Nakaila, Moyamba, Bont, and the other places. We even started massive infrastructure road construction. For those who travel widely, just get back to your villages. Travel across the country, you see. Not all everywhere is paved, but connectivity is improving. Movement is being eased. And I am proud to say these are funded 100% by government. What is even more interesting is that this government on its own, the single largest spender on education, not only on education, but on corona, we spent about $40 million on corona. You know what that would have meant if there was no corona? What $40 million would have done? About $400 million. That would have done massive work across the country. And we are in history to have purchased from the budget the highest quantity of tractors and farm implements that are deployed now in all districts, engaged in land preparation for the planting season. Across power tillers, tractors, whatever you call them, they are all over the place. You can get a detail from the Ministry of Agriculture. We did all that when we were fighting corona. So that is our expenditure pattern. Overall, the deficit GDP ratio we were able to drop from 2018. We inherited it about 8.8%. We dropped it to 5.6% and to up to 3.3% in 2019. Of course, 2020 we expect it to come up again because of the revenue loss which we experienced. But by 2021, if the corona situation simmer down, then we expect that one to improve. So that's our on the revenue GDP side, on the fiscal side of the economy. Inflation we inherited at about 18%, at about 17.5% to be exact. It was projected to go by December to 18%. Surprisingly, we argued with the IMF that that's not going to happen. I remember I participated in that technical discussion, even as a minister. Because the assumptions they were making for rising inflation, I'd say no, it cannot work. Because they were expecting some shortage of food. But the magic was that using the central bank facilities, special credit facilities, a $50 million was injected into the system to provide credits, foreign exchange credits to importers of essential commodities. Did you experience any shortage of any commodity the whole of 2020 in this country? There was sugar, there was rice, there were almost all essential commodities were available. Did you experience any shortage? When I talk the talk true, when I talk the two, let's get the good news for once. The press doesn't like the good news, but I'm giving you the good news. There was no shortage. Yeah, because there was no shortage, and there was an increased production, agricultural production. What did he experience? we experienced a situation where the commodity basket for food, the food inflation came down, subsequently affecting itself, the entire inflation itself. And I'm pleased to report that by the end of the year, inflation came down to about 10.5%. It rose slightly in general and came down again but as I speak, the inflation is less than 11%. So inflation, which we inherited at 17.5, which was projected to go to 18, is back to 10.5. Less than 5 percentage point, about 5 percentage point to go to a single digit. I mean, how that works, the major reason why that inflation has happened is because there's an increased production of food, but more importantly, our reliance on bank borrowing is dropped because our revenue is coming up. You see, the way the economy works, anytime you want an expenditure to undertake something, you can undertake it, but it's at a price. If you don't generate the revenue, you have to borrow. Either you go to the central bank or you go to your commercial bank. And anytime you borrow, it has its implications, both in terms of debt service and in terms of expansionary part of the economy, causing the inflation itself. Now, the other thing, the exchange rate. The exchange rate is the most turbulent variable in Anglophone economies. If you know those who know understand it very well. Unlike the French system, where the CFA is pegged to the euro now, it used to be pegged to the French franc, where the exchange rate stability is ensured, inflation is under control, all these variables are under control, because 50% of their reserves are banked as the Bank of France, saved there. Our own reserves are scattered in several banks. We take our reserves as long as the banks are credible, AAA banks. So the good news is that for over 18 months now, or nearly 18 months now, the exchange rate has been stable. And the objective is to stabilize the exchange rate and inflation. It's not necessary to bring the exchange rate down. It doesn't go down like that. Once it goes up, the best you can do to stabilize it. For it to go down, you have to play some real magic. That's the reality, to keep it stable. Then our reserve was about 3.5 months of import. 3.5 months of import means if we don't export at all, anything happens. Let's say we are at war now, serious war. We can survive as a nation for 3.5 months. When we came, now I'm proud to say we can survive for nearly 5 months. If there's nothing else going on, no export. Our reserve is about 4.7, 4.8. And we even increased the reserve from about 507 to over 600. Over 650 or what. But reserve figures changing every month. So the figures are never the same. Because every month you spend foreign exchange. I mean, how do you use your reserves? You use your reserve to support import. You use your reserve to make overseas payments, to pay DSAs. You use your reserve to, how do you call this one, to take care of your embassies. We generate loans here. When we are sending money to the embassies, it's not loans we send to them, it's dollars. So that's loan. We make the reserve also available to the banking system that they can use to support import. So that's why it's always necessary to have your reserve. So, in a sense, I mean, you could see at the macro level, we believe fundamentally well. And that has been translated in macro. At the micro level, the so-called bread and butter. The Munafa Fund is creating 4,100 jobs. First phase, 26 billion has been spent. The school buses is creating savings for families. A family who used to spend 10,000 for his child to and fro from Lumley to and Wash is now spending less than that. Where you used to pay from Lumley to Abadiro to Borsod to Kintom, 3-way, 10,000 just gone like that. Now you pay 2,000 direct to those schools. The extra resources is saved. Families that used to buy textbooks, pay tuition fees, because the bills that are paying for all those things, they save that money as well. That is bread and butter. Incomes policy. We have increased salaries for health workers by 100%. Quite apart from the fact that we have put over 4,000. Teachers by over 50%. Other government workers over that. Paramount chiefs are now paid salaries. Councillors' allowances, sitting fees have been increased by 50%. Over 50%. Core staff salaries in local councils have been brought to the level of their counterpart at the central government. We are now paying chiefdom functionaries 10 per chiefdom, about 190 chiefdoms, multiplied that by 10. We're going to take care of their salaries. Those, any police, any bada, they will not be on salaries. We've done the biometric verification. We are going to pay their salaries because they're part of the local economy. So we taking care of all those things. The agriculture, without engaging youth farms. You've heard about the Minister of Youth going all over the place with youth farms. We create about 50,000, about 50 youth per every chiefdom for 100 acres of land. 190, 200 chiefdoms, we added 10 for the western rural area. You are talking about over 10,000 jobs are going to be created. NUAFA is going to create massive amounts of jobs. Now, the overall private infrastructure development in terms of road making, you go up country, you will see people engage in road constructions and the like. They are being employed. They are being employed. Energy is going to ginger the economy. So we, and the entire private sector doing business reforms, the infrastructure development, we hope that also can increase the private sector development. So in terms of policy mix, we are well on track. The budget, the budget for this year, the theme of it, economic recovery for job creation and human capital development. Once we maintain our support to education, not only basic education, let me tell you that, but even university tertiary education, technical and tertiary education. We've established technical and vocational education institutes in all these 3 headquarter towns. In all these 3 but 4. 4 are going to commence by the end of this year. All these 3. Have you seen the one at Cambia? No, so? Malane? No, so? You see it there. Masimbi. Kono. Konadugu. We've got the administrators, full complement of staff, offering vocational courses of different types. That's here. The university, of course, Fubé College is going to start. We've completed the project and we've done all these things. So we did all those things while we are fighting the COVID. So not only on tech, we are not only spending on basic education, we are also thinking ahead. That these children for which we are spending this money, we have to create space for them at the upper level of the education system. So it's overall our spending pattern has been human capital focused. We are currently going to rehabilitate all the hospitals in these counties, and all the hospitals are going to be provided with X-ray services, mortuaries. The mortuaries are going to be revamped, provided with deep freezers and new equipment. Laboratory services are going to be done. The documents have gone through. They don't do the procurement. I've given them the clearance to award the contract. That's part of the health system strengthening. A few months down the line, you will go to every hospital and feel proud to be a Sierra Leonean. Safety net. As I speak now, money is being dished out all over the place. Also, NACSA is being dished money, safety net to the vulnerable groups. That is money put in there. What is more bread and butter than that? What is more bread and butter than that? That is very direct. Also, and just wait a few weeks from now, you will see all that distribution taking place. So social protection, we are very fine. We're going to expand the social protection net and get other avenues of providing additional resources. So ladies and gentlemen, I will keep going. I live with this. I've been with it. We designed the manifesto. I'm allocating resources. I have the figures under my grips. We are very clear. This government is respected for being consistency. When you say human capital development, therefore 22% of our resources went to human capital development, education. We have to create the jobs. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, the best way to create to provide bread and butter for people is to create opportunities for them to be educated, is to provide them jobs. And that is what President Bill government is doing. Thank you for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we now call the microphones over to you, the ministers.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
We'll have another engagement, so we'll please encourage you to ask questions to the point so that they will respond to each and every question. There's a gentleman here, Mr. Peter. Let us know your name and the media house you represent.
Good afternoon. I'm Mohamed Amaraga, writer for the Young Brothers. This question is from Minister of Finance.
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much. I think you have highlighted so many things that you have done with the push to media. It's not really easy to handle the economic situation in this country. It seems that there is no better time than now to maintain sustainable development and available funds of business model to build a more resilient society and economy post-COVID-19. Despite the immense effect of COVID-19 on global economy and different business activities across the world, COVID-19 has brought us a window of opportunity to rethink and rebuild the principles of sustainability, development, and value creation. My questions for you, sir. What message do you have for the people who are dissatisfied with the economy of this country? 1. 2. What do you say to jobless youth who want employment cannot find it now? Thank you very much.
Of course, you have done well. But my question is, people are seeing crime when you travel in public transport, other places. People are seeing prices of goods, particularly imported goods, are increasing. So that's my question, why? Irrespective of the strive you have made in reducing the inflation from 17% to now 11%. People are still crying that prices of goods are still increasing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Salary optimization. We are seeing some civil sector organization they are paying compared to other. So I want to know how far you're going with that.
All right, thank you very much. So since the last question was for the Minister of Finance, we'll start with him and then come to Mr. Sek. We'll come over to you for the next set of questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'll end up with the message. First of all, salary, let me start with the last question. Salary harmonization. The Wages and Compensation Commission has passed through Cabinet, is now before Parliament. And we provide an additional push to get it through. That's before Parliament. Unfortunately, Parliament has been adjourned Sinadai. That's where we are. Of course, through subject, David will have to answer that, but as a man who play with the figure, definitely, I don't know why he said it's 4 billion. But I know for sure school subsidies numbers keep changing. We started with 2 billion. Every semester now it's going to 51 billion. What amount of paid, I cannot tell now, but every semester at least 50 billion is being on school subsidies, about $5 million. Price of goods are changing. Yes, the recent increases in price of gold is not the external. Remember, there are restrictions overseas because of the corona. Shipping lines, I don't know whether you are following international news, even in the Gulf, there are problems with shipping lines across the world. And for all imported commodities, that affects the prices because the supplies are delayed, prices are going up, and there are very few people working overseas. China was locked down for several years, India, other countries where we get our import. So that has impact on all economies, not only Israel. But to say prices are increasing rapidly, I don't think that's correct. And definitely that is not correct. You don't have price just increasing on every day. No. The economy is stable, fairly stable. But I agree there are slight increases in exploits. We will study the situation, we try to do everything so that we don't get deep into that problem. We hope the problem will subside as we go along. The message to the jobless youth is try as best as you can to develop your skills in any area. As best as you can develop your skills. We can make you either you get a job or you get yourself employed. Then for those university graduates who have gone through university education, it's important that you try to have some entrepreneurial ability as well, so that if you don't get an office job, there's something else you can do. But let me just say, it's not more that people are jobless. The joblessness is not because jobs are not there. But because everybody wants to stay in FUTA, particularly for the graduates. David has the figures, he can tell you how many chemistry teacher you have in St. Paul's Studio. Normally. But if you come to FUTA, they are all there. So if you are teaching chemistry or you did chemistry, you did what? You want to go to Bond, there are jobs here. So among the graduates, really, if you are ready to go to the remote areas to serve your country, there are opportunities here. You may not want teaching, but besides part of life, all of us started teaching. But that is why we do everything possible to increase the condition of teachers. We shall be discussing what we call remote allowances very soon, so that somebody who lives in Kwendu will be better paid or better remunerated than somebody who teaches in FUTA, just to attract people to the remote areas. These are all skills we are working on. The message to my people generally, we are not there yet. But we hope to be there. We hope to go to the promised land. Just be hopeful that President Bill means well, this government means well. We are very passionate. We shall be there. The question we ask ourselves, what if the counterfactual? What if this SNP government has not taken power? What would have been the situation in Sierra Leone? When all the donors are run away, you are going to come? Just imagine that for a minute. What if SNP have not taken power in this country? What was going to happen to Sierra Leone?
The impression I got from your explicit narratives speech here is that your government has done in 3 years what other government had done before in the space of 7 to 8 years. That's perfect. My question is, what else remains in the micro, applied, and development economy?
Sorry?
What more, as an economist, what more remains in the micro, applied, and development economics?
What more
The
remains?
micro,
Yes.
development, and applied economics, which you've not talked about.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Mola Ibu. I work for Epic for you. This is for Mr. Jacob Jusu Safa. I think this is the second time as you say, Sierra Leone is poor and will continue to be poor for a while. As the Minister of Finance, someone that is entrusted, in a capacity of changing the narratives. And during the campaign period, he used to say Sierra Leone definitely will change. Maybe before these 3 years. So don't you think you definitely putting us in a skeptical situation or position in which we are not going to believe not only this system but subsequent systems?
Thank you very much.
To the Minister of Finance, Mr. Jacob Jusu Safa. Yeah, out of the presentation you've made, you said the previous government, they were doing a mobilization of the revenue below 10 billion. Now you're saying your government is doing 20 million loans per day. Billion loans per day. Now, according to your own presentation, I just want you to say it for me clearly. Why the increase in revenue mobilization rises in your own regime? Still, the lives of the people is not being changed. How or where is this money being put into as your government or as a Minister of Finance? I just want you to.
All right, thank you very much to you, Mr. Minister. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Minister. Sometimes we don't like people who are honest, but we have to say it. Then to expect a government come 36 months, or man for don't pay time to come for the bicycle or Honda, they will not fear. Sierra Leone has suffered so long, and we have what they call in-development deficits. It's like you take a lump of sugar, just drop it in a bucket of water. It doesn't taste the change, more or less. So what we agree, we are laying the fundamentals to move on. And we are very proud of that. We are not telling you lies. All these things we are saying, they are factual. What we have not done, we cannot say it. They are factual. So to increase revenue does not mean you are changing people's life together. Because you are using the revenue. I've explained how we are using the revenue. We say we are spending 52 billion on education. Then you ask me again how we use the revenue. We are increasing salaries of teachers. Where are we getting the money for? It's our revenue. I've said it. We are fixing roads. It's our revenue. We are fixing electricity, water supply. You ask us again, you bring us back to the same problem. So we are indeed using the revenue on the project. So that's why, when he said, even though, he was extremely polite. That's special of me to say, you felt it. But I know, Salone, our assumption sometimes is not quite correct. It takes, we'll be paying salaries consistently for people in this country. That's why we're using revenue. So indeed, we are using our revenue to do what we are supposed to do. And I will tell you, check the manifesto. Where did you ever say that everybody never get Okada and Salone? And I tell you, if I give Okada, you're not satisfied. The next one, I want to play once. That's a reality. Go everywhere. The poverty definition changes as income level increases. Yes. Yeah. As I give Okada, say, write down and multiply once. But what we are trying to handle is the human capital, because that is the big deficit. We're very mindful about it. But come on to the investment industry, we are not going to have a payoff for them until after 15, 20 years when they finish university, but they start working to pay taxes. So you can see they don't bother with those things. They just go on what people can see. But the cost of living is so great. And that is what has brought us where we are today. We've abandoned education for so long a time. And tell me which nation develops in this world without education. Tell me just one country. There is no country. The root of development of every country is in education. So what we are doing is not the short-term result we want. Not because we want to win an election. But we want to make sure we leave a legacy that will be with us years to come. We are not going to necessarily benefit. Maybe I would have gone away by then. But the benefit, most of you young guys will repeat later on. So what we are basically saying is that we are doing all we can to improve the lives of people. But poverty is not going to be eliminated overnight. That is the truth. By the time you don't go up like they see all there, and you don't let people. You don't see touch house na salon. And now look at you what now for reduce poverty. You don't see touch house na salon. Which village you come out? If they touch house, you village you don't touch house. Who say don't go be like? They go. So for imagine saying that inside 2-3 years, no, come on. Just imagine that. Maybe like go to poverty, but they not people understand. Maybe your house is condition of poverty. Is that what it is? But let's see 4-man bunk in one room, that's where you can't believe for some time. This is facts. Until income levels increase, people get more jobs, they will go out, we get housing policy. It takes some time. That is what we should strive to do. Then the other thing again, what small remains the micro. The micro, maybe we need an understanding of what you call macro. Macro, these are these fiscal revenue issues, exchange, these are all macro related. Micro is agriculture, a micro. A micro down there. Tourism is a micro, fish is a micro, and the waiting the can at the post, monarch for a micro development. So, but in economic theory, the transmission mechanism between the macro and the macro is always a very challenging task. But we try to link it up. And you normally, I don't want to go to the theory of economics now here, but for the sake of clarity, let me just attempt it. What we're doing as a government, the things in between the macro and the micro is what they normally call the meso. Credit is one variable. Providing credit to people. That's the way you distribute wealth. The other way to distribute is creating jobs through agriculture, through labor public works department. That's the way you distribute wealth. So the question you were asking was, this is a standard question all over the world. You have to improve macro environment. People are not feeling it on the ground. So the whole fight is how you distribute that resource at that level. for it to get transmitted on the ground. That is the old challenge in public policy. It's quite challenging. There are a lot of limitations. Even the infrastructure limits it. Sometimes you cannot even build a school in some communities because there is no road to even take the cement. So for you to build that school in the first instance, you have to fix the road. Yes. The infrastructure limitation. Some communities cannot be accessed for even healthcare services. You may have all the drought, but you can't do anything. I know some of you know those villages, but you may not imagine it until I say it this way. So, ladies and gentlemen, I advise you, let's be hopeful. And I'm pretty sure most of you here, your conditions are better now than yesterday. I'm sure. I can see it in your faces.
That's right for laughing vote, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call this press conference, bring this press conference to an end. But just a quick announcement that in the coming weeks we shall be having ministers, coming here on this very platform to talk to us about what's happening in their various sectors in the last 3 years. So I encourage you to please endeavor to be here at 1 o'clock because we intend to start on time so that we can be able to along the ground. Thank you very much for your time. Next week.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.